Good afternoon. We begin with breaking news.
After more than 100 days of federal trial, alleged crime boss Michael Miskey learned his fate today.
And after deliberating for 5 days, the jury has found Michael Miskey guilty in a murder conspiracy case. Now, again, after more than 100 days of federal trial and 5 days of deliberation since last Friday, they returned guilty verdicts on 13 of the remaining 16 counts against him. That does include conspiracy to commit murder for hire resulting in death and murder in aid of racketeering.
Miskey was being held on those remaining 16 counts, including conspiracy and racketeering related to murder, attempted murder, drug and other offenses.
He'd already been acquitted by the judge on several other counts, and as many as a dozen former co-defendants already had reached plea bargains in this case. Hundreds of witnesses, thousands of exhibits were utilized during trial.
With federal prosecutors calling Miskey the epicenter of a criminal underworld with a criminal enterprise that preyed on society for the better part of 2 decades.
Now, in addition, government officials spent a considerable amount of time discussing the murder-for-hire plot of Jonathan Frazier, who went missing in July of 2017.
Now, the verdicts come just 1 day before a court-imposed deadline for prosecutors to respond to a defense motion for acquittal on all remaining charges, with the defense attorneys saying right after closing arguments that the government's evidence didn't prove the crimes.
So back to Jonathan Frazier. You can see the picture of him on your screen. One of the key verdicts guilty in this case is for the racketeering conspiracy related to the murder in the second degree of Jonathan Frazier. We're told by our crews down at federal court right now, as the verdict is being read, that the family of Jonathan Frazier looks on wearing T-shirts that say, "Justice for Jonathan."
And they've been a big part of this federal trial from start to finish. What about the non-guilty verdicts? What charges were those?
Sure. What appears to be not guilty so far, and we're going through the very complicated instructions. The jury was given 156 pages of jury instructions that they had to weed through. We're going through them with them. The not guilty verdicts appear to be related to an attempt on the life of Lindsay Kinney. That was decided as not guilty. That was one of the many counts in here. Also, a second, something they're calling count 4, murder for hire, again related to an attack on a gentleman, Lenny Kinsey, found not guilty. Not guilty of conspiracy to distribute cocaine. Not guilty of bank fraud. So you have a bank, a drug, and another one of the murder for hire charges of conspiracy that were found not guilty, but 16 other counts of murder, attempted murder, conspiracy for these. Now, what they're calling, it's complicated. It's not your typical murder trial in which it's murdered by the hand of, right? If you think of murder in the first degree. This is a federal statute called, in one case, or in one situation, murder in aid of racketeering, and conspiracy to commit murder in aid of racketeering. Again, if you picture as the federal prosecutors did, paint him as the crime boss.
Right,
that's what they mean by the racketeering, the conspiracy to direct the committing of these acts. The penalty, much the same. He could face a maximum of life in prison for example, the murder in aid of racketeering statute at the federal. So even though it might not be considered murdered at the hand of, that you might have at a state level.
You had a hand in it.
You had a hand in it, but not a hand of it, so to speak. Yes, that's a good way to put it.
Out of all the guilty verdicts, which is the biggest one?
It's got to be the Jonathan Frazier. That seems to have been the linchpin in this whole situation that I think drove the feds to finally be the ones to step into what they said and have now proven, according to a jury, to be a massive, years-long racketeering and conspiracy enterprise, really what they would call the Miskey enterprise, that did, according to the jurors, result in the death of this young man, Michael Frazier, Jonathan Frazier, whose body has never been found, by the way. And that was one of the defenses by the defense attorneys was sort of, what murder? There's no body. How can there be a murder?
That being said, there has been court cases where the body has not been found and a guilty verdict has been given.
And this is one of them. This will probably rise to some degree of national precedent and prominence because of that. Here is one of those where you don't have the victim's remains ever found and yet tied to a conspiracy to murder.
Now, deliberations started last Friday. They had the weekend off, so it was Friday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and today. With all these guilty verdicts, I would imagine the reason why it took so many days is because there was so much information.
There was so much information, and again, we go through these. This is just a fraction of it. I want to show you, if our producers can call up something that we're calling the notes from the jury. I want to give you a look at what was going into the contemplation in the minds of the notes of the jury. Now, the first note they gave was pretty simple. Hey, can you give this to us in electronics? These binders are tough. Okay. But take a look at notes 2 and 3. This goes back days now, where they were saying, wait a minute, if he just condoned it, is that the same as murder? Right. If he just condoned it after the fact, is he really a crime boss? You know, if he's just appreciative for the efforts of the alleged henchman, is that the same as conspiring to do it? So these 3 jury notes, really 2 of them, there were only 3 in those 5 days, but it really shows us, and as they say here, I'll read you from that, it's in handwriting. The jury has not reached consensus regarding the application of some instruction. Some believe that in order for the defendant to directly conspire, he must condone, participate, or benefit from. Others believe that the general protection provided by the defendant, you think the typical crime boss in a movie, right? That the members of the conspiracy have already satisfied the first element. They're working for the man no matter what. They know it's going to make him happy. They seemed to go back and forth on this condone. So to observers and legal analysts, we watched these notes closely over the past few days saying, is that indication that there could be a hung jury, a disagreement, or even a not guilty verdict on some of these conspiracy things? If they couldn't agree what it means to condone, it really looked like it could have gone either way.
And it's a legitimate question. They wanted more specifics on the law, and to which the judge replied, what did he say about that?
He basically went back and said, go back to what you saw in trial. If I give you any more information here, we're basically going beyond the scope of what you heard in trial.
Gotcha.
But that's a tricky one. And as you come away from the Kaneshiro verdict or some of the other verdicts where the defense was able to adequately defend, to point out and put enough doubt in the jury's mind that, like, hey, he never asked them to do that. He never said do that. He didn't condone it or demand it. It seemed for a while that the jury was taking that to heart. So I think that does signal that there has been a very careful deliberation by his peers. They took time. 5 days is a long time.
It is, yeah. Okay, you know what? Let's wrap it up. In the last, 15 to 20 minutes, Mike Miskey found guilty of 13 counts. Can we get another wrap-up of what he was guilty of?
Yeah, the biggest ones are conspiracy to commit murder and murder for hire and kidnapping resulting in the death of Jonathan Frazier. That's the main message taken away from here. And Mike Miskey, seen on your screen, could face life in prison for his crimes.